Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Happy Wednesday. Welcome to The Social. Joining us today, broadcaster, world champion hurdler, Olympian, and all-around fine human being, Perdita Feliciano.
You are a vision, darling.
And we wanted to make you feel at home because I know you are from Pickering. It turns out Pickering in the day.
My girls.
Okay.
Stand up.
New bestie alert. That's what we're doing. All right, well, let's dive into the first topic of the day. Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, they have ended their pretty rocky relationship. And sadly, they've called it quits right after they just revealed they are expecting a baby together. So a source is telling Us Weekly that they are both, quote, too hot-headed and stubborn and fell back into constant fighting. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time that they've actually split up since they started dating back in 2020. It's a kind of an on-again, off-again situation. Yeah. So, Perdita, the question is, when it comes to ups and downs and what might be considered a toxic relationship, when should the on-off just be off?
It should be off. I find them a little bit toxic, but it's not really my business, but I'm gonna make it my business now. I feel like your gut knows, right? As women, we have a sixth sense and intuition. I think she knows, and I look at him, I'm like, he's very interesting. So Megan, run, girl, run. I think
I know, but wait, don't you also feel like this is what, growing up, I'd hear like women like this, we would call women who would have prepaid man problems. These are women who are involved with somebody where you know they're not good for you, but because of the sex or your unresolved childhood trauma, you keep going back again
Sex
and
will
again.
do that. Sex will do that.
And we've seen plenty of celebrity couples go through this. I'm thinking like Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee. Remember, they were pretty toxic. Then, of course, it was Whitney and Bobby. And then, of course, most recently, Cardi B and Offset. And those relationships never worked. But I think those relationships are very important. And there are a lot of people who wouldn't be married today if they didn't date that toxic guy. And hear me out. I think you learn a lot more about yourself, your self-esteem, your boundaries, what your needs versus your wants are in those toxic relationships. And I'm not talking about the ones where people are in physical harm, but the ones where you really sharpen you and go, I can never do this again. I don't want this in my future.
Boy.
Well, not the bad. Well, there's bad boy, but even you were saying earlier this week, Cynthia, you were saying like you would not have chosen Jason if you hadn't dated a couple knuckleheads. Is that
absolutely true? Absolutely true. Yeah, but I think it's that word toxic. I don't think I ever had that dynamic, or at least not to the degree that I perceive their relationship as being like sort of like fight, like really have huge blow up fights, and then probably end up in the bed. That is a dynamic that I think we all have either like touched a little bit of or known people who've done that full on.
I mean, it sounds a little bit exciting.
Well, I think it's dysfunctional, and I think the thing is the question off the top is like, when does that become something else? We all know in long-term relationships you're going to go through ups and downs, but I think as soon as you have kids, if that's your dynamic, the fight, and do the other thing that starts with F, then I don't think it's the greatest dynamic to display for kids, because kids are always watching and they emulate. This probably came from both of them watching dysfunction in their own lives. It could be.
I think they both come from, a lot of trauma in their lives for sure. At a certain point, except for, as Andrea, you mentioned, as long as it's not, no one's in danger, I think there's a certain point where someone's got to grab you and say, grow up. Just grow up. And I think there is a phase, we go through this all, we talked about bad boys earlier in the week, but I think for me at this age anyway, in my wisdom, what I've learned is, you know what is invaluable? You cannot put a price on your peace. Your inner peace. And this roller coaster and the toxicity and the fighting and then the crazy lovemaking and then the fighting again, that sounds really tiring. And I got no energy for that.
And you gotta think about what you're passing on to your children, right? Yeah. That is such a toxic thing, I think, to pass on. And a lot of people want to stay for the kids. I don't believe in that. I feel like your kids can feel things, even if they're 1, 2, whatever, they can feel your energy, and you want to pass on things. I have the saying, give a childhood to your child that they don't have to recover from when they're older, when they're adults. That's the best gift.
I will say this. It's always interesting that the clarity on the relationship always comes when she's pregnant. It's like, we couldn't figure this out beforehand, but they'll cross that bridge and figure it out.
Okay, so picture this scenario. You're in a cafe and a stranger asks you to keep an eye on his laptop while he steps away. You agree, but after 30 minutes, He has not returned, okay? And get this, you have to catch a train. So what do? So someone wrote to Miss Manners asking what is the correct thing to do in this situation. So we brought it here.
Listen,
what do you think?
It's a very easy answer. Abandon their stuff and catch your train, folks.
No.
Yes. Okay, so you're telling me that I book a trip, I organize it, I get to the train station, I have my ticket, and then somebody who wants to leave me in charge, a stranger in charge of their stuff, I'm supposed to miss my train because this person wants to leave me in charge of their wallet?
Where are you going? Are you going to Union Station or are you going to Bora Bora? Like, there's a big difference.
No, it doesn't matter where I'm going. It doesn't matter where I'm going. I think it's very interesting because, listen, on a first date, I won't even let a guy know what intersection I live at because I don't trust him. So the idea of being somewhere public and a stranger asking me to watch their wallet and their computer, it just doesn't make any sense.
You know what's phenomenal about it? I was thinking about the same thing because there's something so interesting, so human of us that we decide that we don't trust a whole bunch of people on a train.
Thank you.
We pick one person who's also a stranger to trust them.
You could be a
it doesn't
queen.
make any sense at all. I think 10 minutes. I think you got 10 minutes.
Agreed.
That's a good cool.
Am I a pushover?
10 minutes.
You would stay for as long.
I would stay as long.
You're really nice. You're
Because
really
here's the thing,
nice.
when I go to a cafe, I'm there for hours, right? I'm working, I'm reading, I'm doing whatever. So you can go shopping, you can go to the mall. When you come back, Perdita Felicia will make sure your laptop and all your stuff is where we left it. Yeah, I'm not a thief.
Oh, you're much nicer than us.
We don't know that. This is true.
They know it's Perdita.
They could find me on Instagram. So
Yeah,
oh,
exactly. It's something I never thought of until I read this article, and I realized, I think, something I've learned as I get older, setting up expectations at the beginning of an exchange is much better than trying to explain after. And so what I learned from reading this is, if anybody were to ask me to watch their stuff, I don't know who you are, but if you ask me, I'm gonna actually say right out of the gate, yes, I can, for 10 minutes. Then you're on your own. And I think that works for a lot of things. And with kids, setting up expectations and telling them what to expect before it happens mitigates all the drama that comes afterwards. So I'm learning from this.
Speaking of kids, I just realized when we were talking about this story, because I feel like I never leave my stuff in the comfort of strangers to watch, except for once I did it, I actually left my child.
What?
Okay, wait,
Where, what?
So I was on a cruise, okay? So it was just the three of us, right? It's Jason, me, and Jaya. And Jaya was small. Jason and I wanted to go on a water slide he was not allowed to go on.
Tall enough.
So I asked this lovely woman and her child.
Take my kid. Here.
Services. Can you watch our son for? And I realized looking back, I'm like, I must have been sleep deprived. Like, to just think like.
But you remember, but you just reminded me, that is the way that we were all raised.
Yes.
You remember,
Yes.
we didn't have stranger danger like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember going grocery shopping
No, I had a lot of
and
stranger
leaving
danger.
your kids in the car? Like, we used to do wild and crazy things
No,
like that.
not in my household. I wasn't even allowed to go to sleepovers because, I don't know those people. Who are their parents? What do they do?
That's still
do they have
true.
an older brother?
Yeah.
You're not going. So it was always
That still
maybe that's what it is.
happens. No, that's true. That's true.
Sometimes I snuck out of the house and, came back in the day. Sleepovers were not allowed. So you guys remember that manhunt, Nicky Nine Doors, all the things we used to do back in the day? Yeah, so I don't know.
Is your mother watching that?
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
Kathy. Sorry.
All right, let's dive into our next topic. Lisa Kudrow shared on Armchair Expert podcast that the cast of Friends worked hard at becoming friends. And thanks to respectful communication, they were as tight-knit off-screen as they were on-screen. So, is friendship necessary for a healthy workplace? What do you guys think first?
Yeah. I think so, yes. Listen, I think we all know we probably spend more time with our coworkers than sometimes our own partners, if you're married, for example. So I think it's definitely important. Do you have to be best friends? No, I don't think it's necessary, but I do think there has to be a certain civility and getting along as much as you possibly can. People ask us all the time on this show, this is our 12th season, friends. We've been doing this a minute. Yeah. And the number one question, I don't know about you, Sin, but the number one question we get asked is, do you actually really like each other off camera? I'm like, it's all fake, all of it, it's fake. But we actually, I can share some secrets. Before we even launched the show, all the original hosts, we got together and we said, we're doing this together. Mm-hmm. And we really made a pact. It was a very intentional thing to do that. So the added layer that as women in a business, it can feel very competitive, and we knew that. We had experienced that in different ways in our lives already. So we made that effort and said, we are gonna do this together because you're stronger together than individually. And guess what? It's worked out. Yay! It's worked out.
It is important. I also think about just regular types of jobs where the office dynamic matters, right? And we all know when there's been a toxic personality and how that can infect. When I was a hiring manager, I really thought very carefully about what personalities would go together. And it didn't always work out. That's the thing. People bring their own complicated stories. You can't always tell that in early interviews. But it matters, right?
Yes.
But
here's the thing.
Sports,
Can I say, "Rah," because in my line of work, like, I don't like you. I'm giving you the stink eye because we're competitive, right? So if you think about 8 women.
You're in an individual sport.
Exactly, but we're still co-workers, right? We're still in this thing together. Without them, I can't compete. So for me, it was different. You had to be selfish. You have to be self-centered.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I would look at another competitor and be like, girl, I'm about to eat you for dinner. Don't you dare.
I love this. Okay, so once the race is over, then what happens?
I'm not talking to you still. You beat me.
Really?
No, I beat you. If I beat you, I'm talking to you, though. If I won, I'm talking to you. If you beat me, I'm not talking to you.
But that's a solo sport dynamic. I wonder if it's true if you're on a team.
No, team,
right?
you can't. You have to get along. What you're saying is 100% true.
Yeah, and I think to go even deeper, it depends on if you're a team in any workplace, of course, but I think when you have a job that is front-facing, much like this one, or if you're on a professional sports team, if you have the team and they are not cohesive, you, the fans, you guys who are watching, you guys know and you can feel it, and then it just disintegrates from there. So I think it's really important for respect. You may not like each other, but you must respect each other, because once the respect is gone, then it's a crack, and then all the other garbage seeps in, and that's when you have the breakdown. But I think it's even harder.
But there's always that one person, let's be honest, I'm not saying it happens here, who is annoying. You don't like the way they talk. You don't like their perfume. They're just so annoying. They bring fish and put it in the microwave and they smell up the whole place. There is that one coworker. Am I wrong? How do you like that person?
And sometimes actually it can make for interesting dynamics though. Like, because I was thinking about this friend story in particular, and I think it probably wasn't easy all the time, but we would have been able to tell, to your point, if those people did not get along as friends, I don't think that show would have done as well.
Absolutely.
Or would it have? Because there's this notorious story of one of our favorite movies, which is Dirty Dancing. Did you know Jennifer Grey couldn't stand Patrick Swayze?
That's not true. That can't be true. That can't be true.
Guys, she did not want him hired. She tried everything she could, and he didn't like her very much either. But that tension, I think in some cases,
she deserved an Oscar for that performance,
right?
Because we could not tell.
Couldn't tell.
Wow, I had no idea.
Right. Baby in the corner.
Wow.
I could not tell.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one.
Fascinating.
I know, right?
I did not know that story.
Well, and they had to be really in each other's space.
I know.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's head over to Google now, because they have released the top things that Canadians searched for on the internet this year. So here they are. For example, what time is the solar eclipse? Top Googled question.
I Googled it.
Next question. Why can't you look at a solar eclipse? What's going on here? Another great question. How many electoral votes are there? And the top person that was Googled, Kate Middleton.
Yeah.
Kate Middleton, with her cancer diagnosis, maybe. So the Googling of the things on their list, have you Googled any of those things on the list?
I mean, guilty. Yeah, I definitely did what time is a solar eclipse because I had a laser hair removal appointment.
Very important. Very important. Don't miss that.
I needed to reschedule. Also, what time is the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight? I Googled that as well.
Yeah.
Not because I wanted to watch it, but because Jason wanted to watch it with my dad. And I was like, I think that, or Jaya was trying to stay up too. And I was like, I think that's very late.
Listen, that's hilarious. You know what? I Googled it, but for a different reason, because I'm a Mike Tyson fan, and I couldn't believe that there were people who were like, who's Mike Tyson?
What?
I was like, what do you mean, who's Mike Tyson?
That?
But at the same time, I had to ask Siri, I'm like, Siri, who's Jake Paul? What does he do? When you show me his YouTube clips, so I was Googling the same thing, but for a different reason.
Did you Google any of this?
You know what? I abuse Google, okay? If there's like something I don't know how to fix, like the plumbing or the dishwasher, I do that. But I also use Google to find out how much money people are making. Oh. Yes. And their love life, their dating history, their hookup history. Yeah. I'm a nosy Rosie. What can I say?
Siri, how much money does Perdita Felician make?
She's expensive,
She's working on it. Oh, she does. You know what?
She broke.
Yeah.
Kidding.
You know what was shocking to me on any of these lists? As Canadians, there was 0 Canadian political stories looked up by us Canadians that made the list. Sure. There wasn't the name Trudeau, Poilievre, NDP, Liberal, Conservative, but the American election dominated our searching. You've heard Trump saying it, we should become the 51st state. No.
Never.
But we are interested in their politics. And the other one that really caught me off guard was the top songs that were Googled, and the top 3 songs were all Kendrick Lamar songs. Ooh. And If anybody's keeping up with the Drake and Kendrick beef, we all know about that. I don't think these are the most favorite songs that have been Googled. I think as Canadians, I'd like to believe, we were like, what was Kendrick saying about Drake? And so those songs came up because I'm hard pressed to believe that as Canadians that we picked Team Kendrick.
I agree. I think you're right.
Speak for yourself.
Oh, no. I also found it's shocking that on the list of top 10 like people who are Googled, Emma Stone was one of them.
Why?
Which I love Emma Stone, but
why?
I don't know what was going on.
No controversy.
Oh, but you know what I did Google?
What was it?
Where did her freckles go?
Laser removal.
I did Google that.
You think
I did.
Or just makeup?
She had a laser appointment.
There must have been something that earlier in the year.
Do we remember that? I don't remember that. I don't know.
I have no idea.
No idea.
Yeah, wow. We solved that, didn't we? Well, Dolly Parton has been married. Dolly Parton has been married for an unbelievable 58 years.
Good for her. Yeah, that deserves a round of applause.
Her husband's name is Carl Dean. I don't know. We'd be hard-pressed to know what the heck does he look like, that Carl Dean. Well, Dolly was on the Dumb Blonde podcast and explained that award shows and events make him really uncomfortable, so he opts out of being her plus one, and that's why I don't know what this guy looks like. The idea of your partner opting out of your very public life, what do you make of that, Pradip?
You know what? First of all, I was like, she has a man. I didn't know. Like you said, don't even know how he looks like. But this dynamic clearly works for them, and I think we all have to respect that. Look, he knows his lane, he knows his jam. He'd rather be at home watching MASH or Cheers or Netflix. I don't know this man, but just saying, he knows what he likes, and being all dolled up, tux and all that is not his lane. I'd rather you do that than being sour at the table, not greeting people, like carrying on, embarrassing me.
Remember Ben Affleck?
Yes.
At every event.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stay home.
Look at that.
Oh my God.
I remember that. No, I'm with you. Listen, I don't want a husband like this, so anybody's watching, don't come to me with your saltiness. But I'm team Dolly's husband because I'd rather a person who's like, I know what my strengths are and I know what my weaknesses are. And I don't want to go to these events. I'm not good at small talk. I don't want to be in this monkey suit. So I'm going to stay home so you can do your thing because it's really work for her, right? It's social, but it's also work. And I'd rather have someone who did that than somebody like Ben, miserable. Their whole body language is making you feel like you can't enjoy the event, right? You can't enjoy yourself because you're like, I'm having fun, but I can feel my partner wanting to go home. So I'd rather stay home, do your thing, and I'll see you. We're gonna see you every single day anyway.
There we go.
That's the dilemma, right? Like that's the dilemma if you have a partner who wants to
Ryan sometimes wants to come out with me. I mean, there's the practical thing is we have a young daughter, so if I have to work and I'm going out to an event, someone has to parent, right? And he's fine with that. But Ryan is a social butterfly. For you guys who have met him, he likes being out. And I'll be honest, he is way more fun than I am. And I think people really, the other part of that, I think we underestimate how a really strong partner can actually really work as a beautiful social lubricant, if I may use that terminology. When you come into a space, and especially if you're meeting new people, even if it is a work event and you're networking, my husband has a great sense of humor. He can find commonalities with anybody. He's a big sports guy, so you're meeting people with their partners. The guys talk sports, so he's way more fun, and you leave that exchange with like, you know, Melissa and that husband, and it says a lot about me that my husband is so great.
Yes. Can I add something though? When you're a woman like you all are in the limelight, powerful, strong, you don't want a partner who's gonna dim your light and gonna be annoyed by your energy, right? And I think sometimes if you're in the wrong partnership, that person doesn't like when you're outside being the belle of the ball and whatnot. So I think what Dolly and her husband have is a great dynamic because he understands this is not for me. You be Dolly Parton, the mega star, and I'm gonna be at home holding down her house because in the house, she's not Dolly Parton the star. That's his wife, that's her husband.
For sure, she's still wearing makeup though in the house.
Full makeup. I think that a lot of people get into relationships and don't have this discussion about what does it look like? What does a unit look like? What does a coupledom look like? There are a lot of people who just go into assuming that every single event, you'll be there together. You'll go grocery shopping together. You will be at the company party together. You will do all these things together. And when somebody doesn't see it the same way, it starts to become a problem and a friction, right? And so I love what you're saying in that it's clear that this works for their dynamic. But I think for people it doesn't work for. Like, what if you've got an introvert and an extrovert?
I want my space. Leave me alone. Like, go and do something. I'm here. You're there. Do you know what I mean? Who wants to be around their partner all day, 24/7.
I hear a lot of wives say that.
Get your own thing. No, I love my man. I love my husband. But I'm just saying you should have a separate, independent life from the marriage. It can't always be. Do you know what I mean?
But if he never wanted to show up, like, listen, I'm fine with this too. I also have an introverted partner. But like, I think for some people, if you weren't there to do the red carpet photo of whatever that is, the equivalent of in your life,
it would bother them.
It would bother. And I think if people are being honest, a lot of people would be bothered by that. I feel like I know
don't you
them.
support me kind
Don't
of
you
thing?
support me?
Yeah.
Don't you want to see me shine?
Yeah, everybody's
Don't
going
you
to
want-
ask where you are. I have to make an excuse as to why you're not here.
Because she actually had to be a really strong person too to field undoubtedly a lot of questions about where's your man? He doesn't want to come and see you?
They're
he doesn't want to celebrate you?
Yep.
You know, it
Whatever.
turns out she's doing okay.
And maybe that's why she's been married for so long.
Perdita, we want to say a huge thank you for you being back with us today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.